This date in Bears history, not necessarily an anniversary day, but the Bears acquired Jay Cutler, a fifth-round pick for the Broncos, in exchange for my guy, Kyle Orton, 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick. As we asked the question on this fine April the 2nd, when all of Bears Twitter or whatever at the time went crazy, the greatest day in Bears history, did the Bears actually win the trade? Are we really asking that question? I guess we are.
Yeah, I wrote that question. Yeah, we're asking the question.
We are not asking that question, but we're asking that
51
question.
51 and 51 is a starter, right?
Yeah.
And
Let's stir people up more. All I do is stir people up, chat. We lost that trade. It was exhausting having him here.
I enjoyed.
How many playoff games did they win with him? 1.
I was at
Was
the
it his
playoff
fault completely? No. Was he a pain in the ass? Yes. Should they have signed him to an extension? No. Was he a good leader? No. Was he inconsistent? Yes. Was he the epitome of 500? Yes. Did he have tremendous arm talent? Yes. Would we redo the Jay Cutler experiment for the next 10 years? No, we wouldn't. Anybody?
So what exactly did we give up for him again?
I
We
got
gave
that
up
right
Kyle Orton, who was winning football games, by the way, at the time, and nobody seemed to like him.
It was a 2009 first-round pick. That first-round pick turned into Robert Ayers, a defensive end. A 2009 third-round pick. That pick was traded to the Steelers. That pick turned into Mike Wallace, the wide receiver.
But I think we also have to remember, though, when we talk about what it turned into, like in terms of did the Bears win the trade, you want to say, okay, this is what it turned into for the other teams. But the Bears would not have picked those players. So, like, I think we have to look at it from a different level, too, of had they not made the trade, what they could have done with those picks.
I mean, I think there's a scenario where both teams win trades, to your point. And in this particular case, I mean, the season after the Bears make that trade, they're 7-9. So that the future first-round pick they end up sending away ends up being the number 11 pick in the draft. The Broncos, they made some moves with that number 11 pick. They traded several times, up and down. At the end of it, they turned it into Demaryius Thomas.
He's pretty good.
And Eric Decker was a third-round pick that they also got.
Okay, I'm having a hard time just getting past the whole Jay Cutler experience. And I know there's a lot of Cutler fans out there. But, come on.
If he wasn't injured in the NFC Championship game, do you think the Bears are going to the Super Bowl against the Packers?
That's fair. That's fair. And
I've always wondered that.
Look, that's fair. They got
Todd Collins playing in the... Oh, God, that was terrible.
Right, and the one thing I will give Jay credit for is, like, and he got a lot of slander there. Oh, wait, Jay's just sitting out. No. Dude was tough as hell.
Yeah.
He was.
Maurice Jones-Drew
Yeah.
criticizing him for having a torn MCL and not playing through it.
That whole thing was ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is, look, they had a great defense at the time. I mean, he just
if
too
he just
inconsistent,
didn't
man, and a bad leader.
And the thing is, like, with that defense, if you had just turned the ball over a little less, like, what could have happened? But that just wasn't Jay Cutler's game. Like, if there's 3 guys around Brandon Marshall, like, he's going to try to test that because he thinks he has the arm strength to get it to wherever it needs to be. And at times it would work, but when you have all the talented defensive players and the running game that you did, like, you didn't always have to play hero ball. But I felt like that's what Jay Cutler did a lot of the time. And it also didn't help. He had, 5 different offensive coordinators, like, all the fluctuation. But in the end, ultimately it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't the biggest Jay fan, and that's putting it mildly, by the time he finished his career with the Bears because of all the reasons you stated. I think he's a total jerk, and I'm being 100% honest with that. If he came in this studio and you guys did an interview with, you guys could have him. I can't sit next to the guy.
That'd be dope.
I don't like his attitude. Anybody that's ever said he's a jerk, it lives up to the billing. I watched the way he interacted with fans and players at training camp. I have no respect for him. And for people that found that to be cute, I know my guys Waddle and Sylvie love him. I don't find that kind of attitude endearing. I never have. I never will, not just with players, but people that think that being a jerk to everyone, that don't care attitude, I don't sign up
100%. And that entire locker room, by the way, when Josh McCown was going, that entire receiver group, they wanted Josh McCown to play. It was a huge fight in the city at the time. You got to go back. No, Josh McCown is connecting with that locker room. They are. I mean, the dude threw 20 touchdowns and one pick. He was on fire. Yet the city of Chicago at the time got to go back to Cuddy. No, you don't. And that locker room would appreciate if you didn't.
Now that being said, you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers is a jerk. But you know what? He can sling the rock, and he won a Super Bowl, so he got away with a little more. And if Jay had won a Super Bowl the year he tore his MCL in the NFC Championship, I mean, they could have beat the Steelers. They beat the Steelers earlier that same season. So had he won a Super Bowl, I'd be the first person building him a statue, put his attitude to the side, and the kind of person I think he is. So, like, those are two different things. He's a tough SOB as a quarterback. I mean, we all remember when he ran into the end zone on the Lions and he got, like, helicoptered. He took hits. He talked shit. And so that part of it, like, I can sign off on as a fan, and he is the best arm talent we've ever had at quarterback ever. Easily, yeah. He's the best quarterback of my lifetime. That's not debatable. Now, the leader aspect, that's where he was missing. But so in terms of did they win the trade, yeah, they almost got to a Super Bowl with him. And then the next year, they were 7-3, and he hurts his thumb against the Chargers trying to run back a guy on a pick six, and they were hot as hell that year. The year before when they went to the Super Bowl, they were on fire. People forget they had Johnny Knox, Earl Bennett, and Devin Hester as their 3 wide receivers. And at the end of the year, they played the New York Jets at the peak of their defensive tenure with Darrelle Revis and Antonio Cromartie, and they tore up.
I was at that game.
At Soldier Field. They tore them up. Yep. And that was Revis Island at its peak. Mm-hmm. And you had Devin Hester and Johnny Knox spinning those guys out. So that was Jay Cutler spinning the rock there. So I can talk crap about Jay, the person who I don't have respect for, but the player, he was phenomenal. It just timing-wise, as it always has here in this city, it never seems to line up for our quarterbacks, and let's hope this time around it does.
We all silly like the mayor.